Hello there, good afternoon, and again this is Dong. Today we'll be talking about the rangefinder cameras that we have here. We know that if you are into rangefinder camera this year, probably this is among your choices. However, our choices will be limited only to the cameras we have here this afternoon, and we will not be able to cover other cameras. However, we'll just to try to talk about them once in a while as we go on to this discussion. Okay, now firstly in our list we have here the Zorky one, which is one of those cameras that was produced in the USSR during those times that they were still producing this rangefinder camera, which is basically a clone or pattern from the Leica Barnack of the 30s and of course the 50s. So this one is very cheap, and it's really affordable, and it's a good choice, I may say, because I've been using this, and this produces quality pictures, although some of the knobs and everything, they are quite difficult to use. Although if you'll be using this on a regular basis, you'll be accustomed to it, and then it will become easier for you to use it. And one thing that you need to know on this camera is that this has two different windows at the back, one for focusing, for you to see the image and the rangefinder patch, and then once you have focused it, you have to go to your to the other window for you to compose your image and to take pictures. No? And this one also has this Industar 50mm 3.5 f3.5, which is a collapsible lens. It's really compact. You can even fit this into your pocket. Okay, so this is an all-around camera that you can use basically every day. It's quite small, and of course check it out also this bottom cover that you have to remove, of course, and you have to load your film at the bottom. Okay, that is common in like a Barnack. That is just like here, so you have to cut the film properly for you to have it placed here for you not to damage the shutter curtain. Okay, so this is one of your choices for this rangefinder. Another camera we have here is this Fed3. That's also a camera that is made in the USSR. It's also a very cheap camera. It was made in the USSR, and one of those iconic cameras also during those times. And this is very reasonable compared to other cameras. Although there are some quirks and features that you'll find this camera, particularly whenever you want to shoot or to use this camera, try to take note of this, that you have to wind first your winding knob before you can possibly adjust your shutter speed. Otherwise, if you will do it the other way around, adjusting your shutter speed first and then thereafter winding your advanced mechanism, that will somehow damage the internal parts of this camera, and that would give you hard time having this camera repaired. However, it would be very frustrating on your part to have this repaired once you have had or bought one of these. So be careful of that tip that I gave you, and it also applies to all of those cameras, rangefinders and SLR that are made in the USSR. So take note of that, and that's quite very important. Another feature that this is somehow desirable as far as this camera is concerned is that compared to the Leica Barnack style camera, the Zorky one that I showed you earlier, the rangefinder and the viewing finder are on a window, so you can focus your image and compose your image at the same time. With this one, there's also a diopter for you to adjust this if you're wearing eyeglass like me. So this would be very handy for you to use, and it's really something that you're looking forward in using it, because it would be very easy for you to view your image. However, in my experience, the image, as you can see there, is not so clear compared to some other rangefinders that we have here, but it will somehow serve the purpose, of course, for as long as this one gives quality pictures, particularly with this lens, of course, the Industar 52mm f2.8. It's a classic look with this aluminum body and also shiny barrel all around. That gives you this retro feel, and you have this style going out there and doing street photography with this camera, and with this style and something that you look forward in doing it on a regular basis. Okay. Another camera I have here is the Kiev 4A. It's basically a clone of the Contax II, a camera that was produced before the war, which directly the Leica cameras. Now that is the Contax II. We will go to that later on. But this one is another one that is made in the USSR. It's relatively cheap, of course, compared to some other cameras that we have here. And I find this camera very, very interesting because of the features that we have here. Although, basically, it's just a clone of the Contax. Nevertheless, this one has its beauty of its own. And this one is equipped with this 35mm Jupiter 12 right here. It's a wide angle. This has to be used because of the 35mm we have here, so you have the multi finder. So we have here the setting for you, this 35, 28, okay, you can see that, 28mm, 35, and so on and so forth, 50 until 135mm, okay. But this one also is equipped with this 50mm f2, the original one, the Jupiter 8. That is internal bayonet. I'll show that one as soon as we go to the Contax rangefinders. Okay, the loading of this one is really different. Okay, compared to the Leica Barnack style camera. See, you can remove the entire back. Okay, and with the different shutter compared to the Leica Barnack, this one is a metal blind shutter. This has higher speed of 1/250th of a second compared to the Leica Barnack, which only has originally 1/500 per second, which was later on improved to 1/1000 of a second. So if you want to have that retro look and style, whenever you go out there and take some pictures, this one would be one of the best choices for you. Okay. So we have here another one, the famous Contax II rangefinder, which is produced by Contax, sized icon Germany, which was produced before the war, which originally intended to compete with the Leica Barnack camera that they had before the war, although this one did not catch up that well. However, during this time, it is really relatively cheap and compared to some other cameras. So this one is another candidate for you to use if you're into a rangefinder camera this year. Some quirks and features that we have here, especially the focusing right here, the lens. So if you want to focus the lens, okay, you have two choices. First, you can use the barrel, no? Simply turn the barrel left or right. Or there's a wheel right here that you can turn. Okay, so you see that the lens is turning left to right. Okay, depending on the focus, if you want to go infinite or a bit closer. Feels good in the hands. It feels solid, although it's not ergonomically designed. Why? Because remember this rangefinder patch that you have here. If you hold this one and then you unintentionally cover the rangefinder window, therefore you can no longer focus it correctly because there will be no rangefinder patch. So therefore you have to hold this place in this area where the leatherette is located. Okay, just give enough space for the rangefinder to be seen right there, and then for your pointing finger to be on top for the shutter release. Okay, and then the winding is also the classic one that is commonly shaded with cameras before the war. There is no lever on top, just simply rotate the knob, okay, clockwise, okay, and then release the shutter, and then you have to adjust the counter manually. This one is one of those good lenses that we have here. This is the Carl Zeiss Jena, okay, 5 cm f2 right here. This one gives well sharp pictures, no? Good quality images that you will get from this camera, and of course the contrast is really high. So enough of this one. So we have here another one. This another one, a Rangefinder. Okay, although this one is was released before the war. By the way, this Contax IIa was released in the early 50s and to replace this Contax II that was released before the war. And this one, as I was telling you earlier, originally intended to compete the Leica Barnack, but it did not really get much attention compared to the Leica, which somehow was able to be one of those favorite cameras of during those time. Okay, so this one is basically the same with the other one that I showed you, the Contax IIa. All this one is quite bigger and quite taller in size. However, the functionality is quite the same. Self timer, basically same winding mechanism. Okay, it's basically the same with the other one. So, although the lens right here is not collapsible one, this is 50mm f 1.5. It's a bit faster than the other one. There's a filter right here for black and white photography, which I use and really give better contrast, particularly to the sky. You have to separate the lighter and darker hue of the sky. Okay, so another thing that you need to consider also, just like the other Contax rangefinder that I showed you, is that the focusing right here is basically the same. Okay, it's somehow it slows you down whenever you use this, but somehow that annoys me using this one is that whenever you're into the infinity focus, there is a latch right here that will go up, and that the lens now is already locked to infinity. So you can no longer turn this lens, but you have to, of course, press this thing down for you to refocus your lens, just like that. For me, it's quite annoying because it tends to slow you down. It feels solid on the hand. Okay, although just like the other Contax rangefinder, you need to consider that this rangefinder window has to be freed, no? Otherwise, if you will just hold this without thinking that this might be blocked, just like that, then you will never be able to focus your image. So that is quite slow in the process, and it's not ergonomically designed compared to the other one, the Leica Barnack, because the rangefinder window is located somewhere here. Although they were saying the distance that they have is quite equal, no? Equal in distance from the middle, going here and one going here. So the focusing is quite accurate, as they were saying, but I don't really buy that thing. Otherwise, what about those cameras that are those windows that are located right here? What would be their effect? They are not accurate. Well, it's just my opinion, but well, expert would always be an expert opinion, so we'll stick to that observation. Okay, so another camera we have here is this one of those iconic cameras of the 50s or late 50s and early 60s. This is a Canon 7, which was introduced in the late 50s. And this is pretty iconic because you can use this LTM or the Leica thread mount, and this is basically a pattern from the Leica M model, and this is relatively cheap, of course, and compared to other cameras. So you need to consider this one. Also, this Canon P, it's a bit this looks better than this one. I enjoy using this one, and it looks pleasing to me. It's my own opinion, of course, but one thing that's good about this camera is that there are lots of choices out there for you to use the Leica thread mount. So this is the Jupiter 8, okay, 50mm f2. So I used this in our recent trip to Balear, and Mind you, I was surprised to see the result and the images that I took. They were all sharp. Well, of course, some misfocus. Well, that's part of the film photography. You have to miss sometimes, and that will somehow make you a better photographer, because you'll have to be intentional in focusing your images, and you cannot just simply take pictures, no, randomly or indiscriminately. Let's say just like in a DSLR, you can take 10 images or pictures of one subject, and then thereafter you have all the time in the world to choose as to among these 20 or 10 shots that you took is the best for you, and then you can go on that and then delete some of those remaining images that you took of the same subject. It's not the same here as far as this film camera is concerned, particularly this rangefinder, so you need to be intentional. So this one has this selenium meter right here, although this one does not work properly. So there is a problem as far as this switch is concerned. The contact is quite loose and therefore has to be CLA'd. Though I don't really need to use that this internal selenium light meter. I'm just using my cell phone for an accurate reading of the lights available outside. So I would recommend for you to use your cell phone or any other external light meter whenever you are taking pictures. Good in the hands, okay? Build like a tank. And another one you have to consider is that the shutter of this one is not made of cloth, okay? This one is made of stainless steel, okay? This is one of those innovations that was introduced by Canon. Because the lens, if left without any cap, whenever you're using it and it goes directly to the sunlight right here, then it will somehow pry off the cloth shutter, and then that will ruin the cloth shutter. But this one will not be affected because of the stainless steel shutter curtain, although this one tends to wrinkle in time, but that does not affect the quality of the picture. This one is quite wrinkled now, the bottom portion. So this one is highly recommended, one of your choices. And lastly, we have here this Nikon rangefinder, the Nikon S3, and another iconic camera that was released in the late 50s. Because try to imagine, the Nikon F was released in 1959, and that really changed the landscape of photography. As we all know now, the SLR camera. That Nikon F really changed everything. It leveled up the standard of cameras as far as professional cameras are concerned. But this one remained until the early 60s. Although Nikon was already shifting from rangefinder production to SLR because of the preference of photographers back then. They were shifting to SLR during those times. However, this is one of those iconic cameras, and it produces one of those sharpest images using this lens, this Nikon S mount, okay? This is 50 cm f1.4. This one is basically patterned from the Contax rangefinder that we just showed you earlier. This is the Contax, okay, with the same bayonet mount, no? It's a different thing for you to see. There is a latch right there. Just press this thing down and then turn the barrel clockwise, and then remove the entire lens. So there is an internal bayonet right there to use this 50mm f1.4, and then you have here the external bayonet for you to use the wide angle 35mm or the other longer focal length, the 135mm lens. It's just the same with the Contax, no? Just you can focus this camera by simply turning this lens, no? Like that, okay? So one thing that you have to understand also against that, there is a lock here for the infinity, okay? If you're focusing to the infinity, okay, there is a lock right there. There's a latch right there, okay? There is a latch right there that you need to press down for you to refocus your camera. Okay, just simply press that and then turn the wheel. Okay, or you can just simply use the barrel to focus your image. But I like about this one is that whenever you look into the viewfinder, combination of the viewfinder and the rangefinder, it's a one-to-one magnification. So therefore, no need for you to close the other eye for you to focus. You can possibly open both of your eyes and you can see people who's going in this direction that will somehow block your composition right here. That's one thing that I really love about this camera. No? It's very, very easy to use, and whenever you look into the viewfinder. And of course, one thing that I need to emphasize the fact that this one is basically the same with your Nikon F, no? Particularly this winding lever, the shutter release, the speed knob selector, and also the winder right here. Basically the same with your Nikon F, the same. No? The quality is very, very exceptional with this one. No? Even the leather, no? Despite their age, the leather is still intact and it looks new and fresh. No? And one thing you have to remember also is the loading of the film. You have to remove the entire vac, okay, for you to load your film, okay, just like that, okay, which is basically the same with your Nikon F. Although that one was already replaced when they released the Nikon F2. Okay, so much for our review of this camera. No? So, as I was saying earlier, this camera are among those choices you have for this year, but there are other choices that you need to consider, particularly those lip shutter cameras. These are all focal shutter cameras. No? And there are more reasonably priced rangefinders out there that you can buy this year, and try to go to the rangefinder camera and you'll enjoy it. Particularly, this one has no mirror box, so therefore the vibration is out of the question right here, because you can use this up to low speed and then you don't have to worry about the vibration that the mirror will generate whenever you release the shutter. Okay? As far as this SLR are concerned. So this is one of those things that you have to consider, and this also gives sharper images, as they say, and I can attest to that. I have shot this camera several times and I know the difference. So much for this one, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have some questions, feel free to ask. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also press that notification button so that I can whenever there are new videos posted, you can be notified. And again, thank you for watching and have a great day. Happy New Year, everyone. Stay safe and God bless.